All right, so let's talk a little edge defender. Is that good with you, Jake? Uh,
Yes. Can I just highlight one thing here? Chase Green, before it gets too lost in the weeds, he just said, I'd love to see more dagger and 21 personnel against cover two. We have Jacobs and Reed. Let's make teams pay for running too high against us.
yes,
I
yes,
agree. Do you agree with that?
totally on board with that, man. And if you run dagger, here we go. If you run dagger out of 21 personnel, I personally like 12 better than 21. Of course, 21, if you're saying 21, you're probably talking about like a Chris Brooks and a Josh Jacobs, or a Josh Jacobs and a Marshawn Lloyd, somebody like that, Emmanuel Wilson, both of them in the backfield. Imagine a scenario where you run dagger, where you've got 21, and on the tight end side, you're running dagger, where you'll have the tight end attack the seam, and then the outside receiver run a dig. Well, guess what happens? You clear out with the go route of the dagger, right? You're going to pull the linebacker back and over with the dig, and now imagine Josh Jacobs on a little angle route inside underneath with a full head of steam running out of safety or something. Hey, sign me up, dude. Sign me up. And if you got those safeties on the shelf, yeah, man. What you do with that dagger, some people would go, well, you're wasting dagger if you're running it into a too high look, because you're stretching, you're running right into the strength of their defense with that. That holds the safety at bay and creates a void underneath. And if that void is not there because they're taking away the dig, now you've got the secondary void on underneath with the angle route. So yeah, man, love it, Chase, love that chalk talk, bro, love it. I want to hit this real quick. I thought this was awesome. Put a tweet out earlier. Brett Favre was at an event that was an autograph signing session, and you see Jordan Love showed up as well. I think this is the guy who runs the event. I wish I knew his name. We'd give him a shout out, but thought it was cool. How much Jordan Love supports Brett Favre. You remember last year, I think it was, when Brett was diagnosed with Parkinson's, Jordan wore the Favre jersey into the game, and it was cool too, because live on the show, his personal, what was it called, not dresser or whatever, like the people, these players have people that are like, hey, you should do this, you should wear this today, you should wear that today. It was her idea to have him wear the Brett Favre jersey, since it came out that Brett was battling Parkinson's. So I thought that was cool. She was actually in our chat. She told us that. She said,
Oh,
hey,
that's great. Yeah.
yeah, it was really neat. It was on game day. But anyway, look at Favre's shirt, that old County Stadium shirt. How cool is that, bro? I seen that and I thought that's awesome. I think this was down around Atlanta, Georgia, or maybe it might have been in Hattiesburg. But anyway, we got to be careful here with some of the copyright stuff. And of course, X is saying, hey, once you pay us some money to boost that, no, sir. There's the picture, if you guys don't remember, the last game at County Stadium in the playoffs, where Mike Holmgren told Brett, whatever you do here, we don't have any timeouts. You cannot run the football. Throw it away. He dropped back, didn't even complete his drop, rolled right, and ran it in for a touchdown. So absolutely love it, man. Love it. So thought that was cool that, again, Jordan Love just showing some love, showing up there to that autograph session with Brett Favre. That would have been a great one to attend for sure. So anyway, now on to edge defender. Let's get into it, Jacob. You got any thoughts before we break down? And here's kind of the theme of what we're going to do here. Last night we talked about the receivers, I think is what we talked about, that the Packers had met with top 30 visits. Like, hey, these are guys that could potentially be a pick with 23 or possibly in the second round. You got any initial thoughts on edge defender before we dive into this article real quick? And it's a very, very short read. It's mostly just information. It's not, reading off scouting reports from a sense of like, I've topped up, we got Dane Brugler's scouting report, that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more interested to see which avenue the Packers go down. Are they going to get the prototypical Packers pick, which is a 6'5", 280-pound guy that has the RAS that's all up the wazoo, that never really produced but has all the traits of somebody that possibly, in theory, could be a shutdown edge? Or are they going to go with someone that could be a little more undersized, like, let's say, Ezeraku, or the guy from Michigan, James Pearce, or somebody that's a little bit lighter, that's more of a speed rusher, kind of going against, the type of person that we usually prototypically draft? I think that's going to be my biggest, basically I'm looking at like a Ezeraku or a Shamar Stewart. Like, which kind of player are they going to go with? They're going to go with a guy that has maybe a little bit undersized, doesn't meet the measurables, but has unbelievable production? Or are they going to go with the opposite, somebody that is an RAS, freak of nature, but has basically no stats that you can speak of? Or somewhere in between. That's kind of where, Afam's saying please draft a speed rush edge rusher, says no more LVNs. It's shocking that AFM has something critical to say. I can't even believe it. But clutch the pearls. Who would have ever thought, right? Joseph right here. I was actually just going to say, I'm starting to think a guy like Landon Jackson is becoming more and more realistic. I start thinking about guys that just would fit that kind of prototypical person. Like I see Landon Jackson as kind of a Preston Smith type. You know what I mean?
Let me say this about Landon Jackson. In order for him to make that short list, we've got the gold list, and now we've added to our board. I should have pulled it up first. You're going to see, guys, you guys in the Patreon group, you have access to this board. Emilio posted an update last night. Next to players' names, you're going to see 2 players on the list that has a black spade next to the left of their name. That means they are prime for the picking for the Packers, okay? And let me explain why. The Packers love Senior Bowl guys. Every one of their draft picks last year, other than 3 prospects, were Senior Bowl guys, okay? They love their athletic threshold. That means that the player was a Senior Bowl participant, and they met the athletic threshold, and they were a top 30 visit. If that's the case, you'll see a black spade next to their name. There's only 2 of them so far. Now, with that being said, Landon Jackson, you just mentioned one of my favorite prospects, meets the athletic threshold. At least he has not been disqualified from the athletic threshold. There may be information withheld, but that's okay. He was a Senior Bowl participant. He was a team captain. He meets the athletic threshold. His RAS was a 9+. Greg Cosell absolutely loved him. If he was the pick at 23, no problem at all. No problem at all. But the problem so far, it's not necessarily a problem. Just because he's not a top 30 visit doesn't mean he won't be, and it doesn't mean he wouldn't be a draft pick either. But right now, he doesn't make this list because he's not a top 30. We're keying on the top 30 visits up to this point. But yeah, Landon Jackson, I'd be on board with for sure.
Okay.
All right. So let's do it. Let's hit this article real quick. I said, well, one thing is clear this offseason, and it's that Brian Gutekunst has edge defender on his mind going into the draft. Below are the 3 top edge defenders that the Packers have had in their top 30 visits, along with their rankings on our PTA Big Board, as well as Dane Brugler's scouting report. So let's start off with James Pearce Jr. Everybody's board, James Pearce Jr. is sinking out of sight. You notice that, right? We're keeping him put. He's in the 12 spot on our board, okay? Here is what Dane Brugler had to say. A 2-year starter at Tennessee, Pearce played the Leo position in defensive coordinator Tim Banks' scheme, primarily lining up out wide, so a wide 9 look essentially is what he ran all the time. Despite being in and out of the lineup, 35.5 defensive snaps per game in 23, 35.7 in 24, he still led the Vols in sacks and tackles for loss as both a sophomore and junior. His 107 pressures over the past 2 seasons ranked him number 1 in the SEC, number 6 in all of college football. Although not a technician, Pearce is a fast, linear athlete who can win races to the edge or collapse the pocket with force behind his extended upward levers, 23% pass rush win rate in 24. Second best in FBS. He was steady with his effort against the run in college, but more will be needed of him to hold up against NFL competition. Overall, Pearce is a upright and frenetic in his play style, but his blend of explosiveness and power creates consistent disruption as a pass rusher. He shows promise in the run game, too. If he works to maximize his talents, he will be a productive pro. I heard you whistling, man. That's some damn good production, Jacob.
24% pass rush win rate is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Here is strengths: tall, athletic build and long arms, explosive first step and with fast hands and feet to escape blocks, gains ground in a hurry to beat tackles to the corner, chop/rip hands are heavy and help pry open blockers' shoulders, rushes to depth of the pocket and works back towards the ball, converts speed to power because of immediate acceleration regardless of the angle, shows basic understanding of steps to affect the tackle and create two-way go opportunities, downhill speed test reaction quickness of interior blockers guarding A-gap, shows general idea of how to use hands in the run game, productive, ranks top 10 in school history with 19 and a half sacks.
And real quick, just because I know that frenetic means wildly excited or active, frantic or frenzied. Because I saw that word and I went, what?
And also, Deadfish says, "What's a Leo position?" So when you get into college football breakdowns, Deadfish, you see all kinds of different terminology. To the best of my knowledge, with the research I've done, like if you go and watch Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman has a position called Viper. That sounds way cooler than Leo, right? Viper is a hybrid linebacker, a hybrid pass rusher. And what they like to do is put this guy on the edge, but he can drop into coverage. So, like if you're showing, and they run a multiple defense, let's say they're running a 34 front or even a 4-3 front, and they've got him at Viper, he could rush the passer or he could drop back into coverage. Now, you say, okay, that sounds unique. It's not. The Packers did it. Let me give you an idea. How many times during Chalk Talk this year did you hear us say 55 drop? 55 drop. That's Kingsley Enagbare. Guess what? They like to put him in the lineup where he could rush the passer, right? But he's got that very tall frame, long arms, that type of build that he can drop into coverage. And you show a 5-man front and drop him out, that's going to create this. What you're forcing the quarterback to do is make post snap decisions, and that's what you want to do on a consistent basis, right? You want to remove as much information pre snap that you can, and then make them read the defense post snap. Coach Lynn says we call him a jackbacker. There you go. There's a lot of different nicknames for those kind of hybrid type guys. That's what it sounds like Leo was in Tennessee, much like the Viper at Notre Dame. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for the insight there, Coach. I love when I have something, I call it something, Jacob. I love when I see Coach Lynn I go, Coach, what do y'all call that? It's always different, always. Mm-hmm. So, and people will get hung up on the whole pissing contest. If I'm right, they're wrong. No, you shouldn't call that, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, anyway. SDM40, apparently they use Pearce exclusively as a wide 9 on the weak side. There you go. And that's what they like to do with Viper at Notre Dame. It's always weak side most of the time. Or, I'm sorry, it'll be boundary side, okay, short side of the field. You got field side, you got boundary side, depending on where you're at on the hash. He was always on one with the T on an island, talking about the tackle. Just an FYI from some who did deep dives. Appreciate you, SDM40. Thank you for the information there, bud. Thank you. All right, let's get to the weaknesses, man. There are no perfect prospects in the game of football, right? So here is James Pearce Jr.'s weaknesses, okay? Lean, leggy player, but has inconsistent bend at the top of the rush, tight through hips, limiting smoothness of redirects, fly-by rusher, misses plays in the backfield because he's out of control. This is what Greg Cosell said. He needs a runway to rush the passer, right? Meaning a wide-ass runway, or else, he's probably going to get, off track. Always looking to time up the snap, which will backfire at times. Flagged for offsides 5 times in 2024. You know how it is in the NFL, Jacob. Those quarterbacks will trick you to jumping offsides all day long. Pad level is inconsistent and gets him in trouble in the run game. Solid play strength, but can be neutralized by powerful blockers who can cinch him up. Streaky, lockout, and tardy getting off of blocks to influence the play. Arrested on traffic charges, speeding, driving on suspended license, failure after a stop in December 2023. All charges later dismissed. This was the thing that we uncovered. Like, this is the negative mark on him, was he got pulled over with no license. Okay? Like, and then somebody had responded and said, it was way worse than that. He got smart with the cops. I'm like, hell, who hasn't got smart? Yes. Yeah, this is not the podcast for you. Believe me, I respect law enforcement, but there have been many times I'm like, bro, you're being an ass. Like, what's the deal here? Anyway, interview process will be crucial. NFL scout, quote, I want to be convinced that he loves this. Okay, so, and again, let's go back to what the scouts said. Ryan read the scouting report. 3 anonymous scouts through Bob McGinn's article. So we don't have a name of a scout. We don't have a name of the team that the scout works for. All we have are 3 randos that said this dude was a problem at Tennessee. Guys, I said it last night. I'll say it again. I live about an hour and 15 minutes from Neyland. It's nothing but UT football sports talk around here. Emilio lives 20, maybe 30 minutes away from me. We never heard one negative thing about James Pearce Jr., and he was voted a team captain as well. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Put your name on it, or I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist is the way I see that. So,
you know what pops off the page right here?
What's that?
The weaknesses, almost to an exact T. I almost was going to bring it up, but I remember them very clearly. This was the large knock on Brenton Cox Jr. That when you watched him, he was an absolute. He needed a wide avenue to get to the quarterback, constantly over rushing, constantly getting duped on play action, and when the passer would step up in the pocket, just completely blazing past and not having the control. Was absolutely ridiculed with hard counts and long counts. Pad level would shoot up and be way too upright. And if a guy like Brenton Cox Jr., who as well was kind of marred for having quote unquote personality and off-field issues, if he can turn it around and develop into the type of player that he did, I think that it does lead credence that the Packers might be willing to take a flyer on a guy like this.
There you go. All right. King Tron said earlier, everyone please like, comment, and sub for the boys. Also, please share with all your cheesehead friends and family that deserve to know this great show exists. Go Pack Go. Thank you so much for that, Tron. We appreciate the kind words, buddy.
Appreciate it.
I hate to ask, but yeah, if you hit the like button, it helps you. It helps more than you guys know. I know some people like, man, I can't afford $3 a month to help with the Patreon. Completely understand, man. Times get hard. I got you. It costs $0 to hit that like button, right? And it helps, like I said, more than you know. So I'm with you, Jacob. This dude, if he's sitting there at 23, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm going to be looking at our board going, we got a borderline top 10 talent sitting right here in our face. And you guys know I'm not team, we got to draft an edge. I'm more team, I'd rather have a 3-tech, right? Or Egbuka in the first round. If that guy's sitting there, man. And that was the other negative that they said about him, Jacob. They said one teammate said he's really intense in the locker room. Good. What do you want him in there drinking a carton of milk? Yay! What are we talking about here? Like, I want pissed off defenders is what I want to do. So anyway, up next on the list, Shamar Stewart in the 15 spot on our big board. All right. Look at this poor quarterback's eyes right here, Jake. He's like, what New Mexico State, what did I get myself into here? Here's what we got with Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. 1-year starter at Texas A&M. Stewart lined up primarily as an edge rusher in head coach Mike Elko's 4-man front, also spending time head up over the tackle and inside over the B gap. That's what you refer to. We were talking about nicknames. When you hear the term joker, that's what a joker is. When you put them in that A and B gap and stand them up over those guys, okay? Let's see here. He is the type of prospect who would test the traits over production slogan that NFL teams subscribe to, as he never had more than 1.5 sacks in any of his 3 seasons in College Station. However, his tape shows a far more disruptive player. He led the Aggies in pressures with 39 in 2024. Stewart explodes out of his stance and is capable of creating immediate knockback or winning high side with upfield burst and flexibility. His countermeasures require maintenance, although he finds a lot of success based on his initial swipe or long arm move. The number one area in which he needs to improve is as a finisher. He has the athleticism to get the ball, but has no business missing as many tackles as he does, especially given his power and movements. Overall, Stewart needs to mature his pass rush efficiency and finishing skills, but he has a rare combination of talent and motor to be a game wrecker against both the pass and the run. His best football is ahead of him. Again, it's opposite of James Pearce Jr. This guy meets the physical threshold to a T, Jacob, but he doesn't have the production, right? If he had James Pearce Jr.'s college production, probably going number 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And he does kind of scare me a little bit just because other than 2024, I mean, even if you consider that quote unquote production before that, it was really scarce. Seems like he stays on the field decently well, though. Doesn't look like he missed much time whatsoever. But in 2022, with almost the exact same snaps, or I'm sorry, more snaps than he had in 2023, he had a 46.3 grade. He played in 12 games, so it's not like he didn't have a lot of opportunities. He did have 2 sacks, 3 hits, 9 hurries. But if you jump into 2023, he improved quite a bit to a 69.5. And then 2024 improved again to a 79.5. So obviously you see, a younger guy that's probably coming into his own. But there's just something about it I don't trust with him. Like they said, the fact that he misses too many. I mean, they almost worded it in a way where like it's shocking how many tackles he missed for how big and outlandish he is. And you love the measurables, the long arms, all that kind of stuff. I'm just done with projects. I'm done with people that are like
Right.
We got to polish this turd and he's going to be something. But it's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, like, if we get there on draft night and he's available, the board is going to say pick him, right? And we always say trust the board, trust the board. Of the edge defenders we're talking about, he's the one that I'm like, man, it's either a home run or it's a strikeout, you know? And I think I want those guys that you look at and go, that guy's going to get you a double. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I'm looking at it. So here are the strengths of Shamar Stewart. Rare athletic balance and fluidity for a 285-pounder. Explosive off the ball with the flexibility to turn the corner and flatten. Uses long arms and natural power to stab and separate from initial blocks. Able to shake free with a cross chop, club rip, or a variety of different swipes. Rangy player and doesn't labor in transitions, allowing him to chase down ball carriers. Smart contained player and sets a hard edge. Uses wide base and body flexibility to root himself at the point of attack, rarely pushed out of his gap. Lateral quickness helps him blow up backside runs. Surprises pulling blockers and ball carriers with closing bursts, so cutting off those power plays sounds like. Plays his butt off for all 4 quarters and competes with competitive edge. His nickname is, quote, the Menace. And then versatile skill set, which allows him to play multiple positions up front. He played a 3-tech, a 4-eye, a 5, and a 7-tech is where he played at. So that I really like that 4-quarter comment there, man. That makes me go, maybe, you know. Here are the weaknesses, though. This is where they'll talk us out of it. Major finishing issues, like a fam upper. 26.9% missed tackle rate in college. Struggles to break down on the move and stay under control as a tackler. Too many fly-by misses. That's what you were talking about, Jacob. Mm-hmm. Move to move, sequencing a pass rusher is still in the development phase, so he's got to kind of create that repertoire of, you know, moves that he's going to kind of – you got to link them together as you go. You're setting guys up. And I think that's one of the problems with Green Bay's hockey line rotation there is those pass rushers don't really get a true opportunity to set those blockers up like that. You know, it's like by the time you get them set up for your counter move, we're going to another rotation, right? Can get caught upright at times and spend too much time hand fighting, leaving him late to react to the run. And then basement level sack production with 4.5 sacks on 680 career pass rushes. That is a lot.
That's not good.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Anything else there on Shamar, man?
Yeah, I mean, this is the exact thing. It's the 26.9% missed tackle rate. I mean, and granted, that's usually not in space, guys. You know what I mean? That's like being where he's at on the field. I'm assuming that he's missing guys where they're brutal misses. And I absolutely can't stand that because when I think back to the Packers – other than this last year where we were pretty decent against the run, it's that when you see the initial man make contact behind the line of scrimmage and then somehow he ends up with a 6-yard run, you know what I mean? Or a 6-yard gain, whatever the case is, that drives me more insane than anything possibly as a Packers fan is seeing that you had the defensive coordinator called a great scheme. You executed it perfectly. You're in position. You're there to make a tackle for a loss. And because you as a person can't make the tackle, like the level 1 type stuff that you're taught when you're in Pee-wee football, that to me is inexcusable. So again, I do not want to waste a high draft pick on a guy that we need to fix his tackling. Like that to me is not somebody that deserves a 1st-round grade.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man, because the pressure's again, you know, through the roof, right? But yeah, it's a tough look. Next is a guy. I think I like this guy better than Shamar Stewart. Go ahead, Jacob. What are you going to say, Bo?
No, I'm just saying if you break down that math, Mr. Stewart gets a sack on 0.006% of all of his snaps. What are we doing, guy?
Come on, guy. What are you doing?
It's just not good.
You getting back there in the quarterback's lap and going, I could have got you. I could have got you.
Look at my arms.
All right, number 21 on our list. And here's a guy that is, I think, a little further down the road than Shamar Stewart in understanding how to rush the passer. This is according to Greg Cosell and what the tape shows. But again, not a perfect prospect either. We got him in the 21 spot. He would be worthy of the 23rd pick. That's Mykel Williams, edge defender out of Georgia. Here's what Dane Brugler had to say. 2-year starter at Georgia, Williams played jack, edge, rusher. There you go, Jack Backer. In head coach Kirby Smart's scheme, aligning all over the front seven, from 3 to 5 technique to stand up outside linebacker, a consensus top 10 recruit out of high school. That's huge. He made an immediate impact as a freshman, several key plays versus Ohio State in the playoffs, and consistently flashed over his career. His junior season wasn't the true breakout year many expected on the stat sheet, but he set career best in sacks and tackles for loss despite dealing with a left ankle sprain that he re-injured multiple times during the season. Williams has a rare mix of bend and length for a pass rusher that can be a battering ram when he wants to be. But NFL teams want to see him develop finesse and more easily accessible counters in his rush attack. Though there are plenty of examples on tape of Williams maximizing his length and power advantages to push the pocket or set the edge, he needs to do it more consistently for quicker wins and block sheds. Overall, Williams is more toolsy than nuanced, and needs to develop a more unified pass rush plan. The individual traits, length, strength, explosiveness, promising toughness, and football character, however, are reasons to bet on his upside. Similar in ways to Jason Pierre-Paul, he projects as an NFL starter on the edge. Wasn't it JPP that was it
blew his
JPP?
hand off?
Yeah, blew his hand off. So, man, that was a weird situation. That was almost as weird as Plaxico Burress shooting himself in the leg at that nightclub. You know what I mean?
Were they both Giants?
Yeah, they were. That's what maybe immediately went from missing fingers to this dude shot himself in the leg. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's common in Kentucky. You just don't expect it on a pro football player. You know what I mean?
Sure,
People
yeah.
accidentally shoot themselves all the time. So, in the leg. All right, strengths. Looks the part with an NFL frame and arms the length of an anaconda. I don't know why people do write-ups like this. Like, just say his arms are long. What are we doing here? We're not trying to write a damn novel. Uses crazy length and raw strength to jar blockers and force through bodies. Promising bull, swipe, and bull pull maneuvers. That's that punch, pull, and swim move we talk about, I would imagine. Violently tears through the tight end blocks. Loose, flexible athlete. Shut up, Jacob. Loose, flexible athlete with long strides to capture the corner. Models his game after Myles Garrett. I'm not looking over there. Able to slip and circle around guards. Why are we using these words? Able to slip and circle around guards from inside alignment. Closes fast on the quarterback when he has an open lane. Functional strength to stay square and anchor down to stop the run. Smart read defender and maintains gap discipline. Light on his feet. Now every word is just popping off the screen. Light on his feet to drop in flat, bat down passes or track down screen targets. Flashes secondary motor. Of course, he's flashing, right? To chase from the backside. We were 12 years old, Jacob. We were 12 years old. Defensive coaches cross-trained him at multiple positions in the front seven. I'm not looking at these comments. Served as a team. I can see them flashing on the screen, but I'm not reading them. Served as a team captain for 4 games in 2024. Strong character feedback from coaches. Kirby Smart said, quote, he's very versatile for us in terms of on the field, but there is no greater value than what he does in the locker room. He's a great leader for us. This is my guy thing, man. This is one of those dudes that if we're going edge defender and James Pearce Jr. is gone and Shamar Stewart sitting there, I think I would rather have Mykel Williams over James Pearce Jr. What do you think so far before we get into the negatives?
I mean, this was a dude that I definitely, for whatever reason, I just put up a blocker on him and I just thought, nah, he's not the guy. I don't want him to be the guy. But when you look more into the schematics and the stats and all that, it is hard not to like him. I mean, it really isn't. And I don't know if you know this, Clayton, but the Packers tend to sometimes enjoy drafting Georgia Bulldogs. Seems to be maybe something of a pattern, if you will.
Hold on, man, Jacob. I'm about to turn the camera around on my wife. She's over here dancing, trying to get me to laugh. I'm about to put her on camera. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
She's trying to laugh. Just
the comments, like everything I just had to go through in the last minute and a half, and she's going to come up here, kick the door up, and start dancing. Like, unbelievable. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, it's
there's Joseph. Big M.
Hi, Mandy.
Go ahead, Jacob. Please finish this. Bye. Be careful. Love you too.
No, I wouldn't mind having him on the squad, man. Would be a little bit of a head scratcher just because of the fact it's like where where are we going to fit him in? Like, we already have that hockey rotation, like you talked about. So in the
Right.
first,
Good point.
even as intriguing as I do like James Pearce Jr., it's the same conundrum that we're going to be in. It's like, where does he get snaps? Whose snaps is he taking away from? And is this actually going to be one of the biggest things that's going to be a catalyst to the success of the 2025 Packers? I just don't quite see it at that edge position unless it's an Abdul Carter or a difference, an absolute freak. So that's where I'm maybe starting to pull back a little bit on my own edge projections. And like you said, I think I asked you, I said, could we do an exercise where we actually look at if a guy's drafted in this position, realistically, does he have a shot of playing? Because up until very recently, the Packers were known for drafting a guy and you let him sit and you didn't give him field priority over a veteran or something like that. So going forward, I would like to see that change, but I also understand that, like, I don't want Brenton Cox Jr. to see less snaps because we get some random flyer on a guy. I don't want Kingsley necessarily to get less. So it is what
It would take a player, what was it Ryan said? It depends on which website you're looking at. I think Ryan said that Brenton Cox Jr. had like an 18% pressure rate at the second half of the season.
Yep.
So, like, it would take a Mykel Williams eclipsing that to justify taking a Brenton Cox Jr. off the field. But, Jacob, I'm going to say this too, man. Remember what I said about Romeo Doubs? This is a real thing that happens in the NFL. If you're looking at a Brenton Cox Jr. and you're going, okay, he's going to be coming up for a contract in the next year or two, and you draft someone like this at edge, you got under contract for 4 years. Don't you think for a second that GM and that coaching staff isn't thinking, let's get some more snaps for the younger dude that's under contract longer. And that lowers the value of Brenton Cox Jr. If the coaches really like him, then you get him pennies on the dollar as opposed to – that's a real thing that happens, in my opinion. It really is. So, Coach Lynn, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Prince says, Enigbare entering a contract year. Hey, that's a great point. What we just said, Jacob. Maybe they tapered Enigbare back. You bring in an edge defender. And now what it's going to become is those two rotational guys will be a Mykel Williams, a Shamar Stewart, or a James Pearce Jr., along with Brenton Cox Jr. You boys might be onto something. And again, you want to know how people truly feel about a situation? You look at their checkbook and their calendar, right? Where's Goody spending time? Top 30 visits with edge defenders. Who are some of the highest paid players in the league that get the checks are getting wrote for? Edge defender. I think you boys are onto something here, man. I really do.
Coach also brings up too, we forget Aaron Mosby, man. That guy absolutely flashed at certain points too. So it's like we have a really deep rotation. We even have a deep bench right now. So it's who do you want to cut? Who do you want to prioritize? So unless an absolute gem falls to us, which you like basically you make Goody an offer you can't refuse, it's like I don't see him gumming up the works that much where it's like, you know what I mean? How many people can you throw on practice squad and keep them in a certain amount of time where it's like, that's the only other thing where I've heard people be like, we need to trade back and Goody doesn't like the amount of picks he has. I mean, what do we got? Like, is it 7 right now or 8? But if we trade back and let's say we get 10 to 12 or whatever people say, there's a lot of people on this team that would be giving up roster spots in order to get these guys in, which don't get me wrong. I love the turnaround. I love my late round gems, my UDFAs. You guys know how cheap I am. But at some point, you got to protect the core 53 and figure out who's your best and not just taking flyers on people.
Yeah. Let me hear that mob voice one more time, as you have, man. Italian mob voice. Hit me.
I think bring him the gabagool, the paisano.
Best guy around.
Weaknesses for who are we even talking about? Mykel Williams doesn't have consistent rush plan or arsenal of secondary moves. Too much wasted movements with the hands, reverts back to strength, which I would rather you revert to strength. Like that's what Greg Cosell talks about all the time. You've got to have a power rush to play in the league. If you don't have a power rush, you better develop it quick because you will get owned for sure. Played in a deep rotation and averaged just 33.5 defensive snaps per game in 2024, 29.3 in 2023, 27.1 in 2022. So this is something that's happening across college football, not just the NFL with these hockey line type rotations. Missed 2 games and parts of several others because of a grade 2 high left ankle sprain. September of 2024. He missed 2023 spring practices after aggravating previous foot injury, which required surgery in April of 2023. So it looks like a high ankle sprain as recent as September of 2024. So that's something to get, got him in for a top 30 visit, right? check that out. Get the doctor's hands on that ankle and make sure everything's good, nothing long term, right? So there you go. And again, you can check that article along with everything else we put together over at patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. $3 a month, get you access to everything on the site. The giveaways as well. Again, make sure you're on there before tomorrow. Let's say before midnight tonight, and you'll be in the running for the autographed Catano Ladapo rookie card. Jacob, you got anything else, man, before we wrap up, dude? I think we crushed it time-wise, man. We covered a lot.
Yeah, you know what? You guys have convinced me. I'm going to join this Patreon thing.
I think you're already in there. Are you not?
I'm not in there, no.
Okay, so it wasn't you that had the derogatory name in there?
No,
I
why would I do
immediately
that?
Now I don't know.
I swear to God, I'm not in there. I don't even know how to join.
Yeah, we had someone join. His first name was, I think, Pig, and his last name rhymed with Venus. So,
I swear I'm not him.
I was like, this has got to be Jacob. That wasn't you. Wow. All right. Cool. Yeah, jump in there, man. Jump in there, and I'm going to try to get it set up to where I can make you guys administrators where you can post articles if you want to in there, stuff like that. Just kind of different.
Well, I mean, nobody